So let's continue this science Cafe Sapporo. From now on, we will start the part 2, spinning life. 生命を紡ぐ. So we've got lots of questions from the audience. So thank you for the participation with the questions. And we have a limited time today, so we pick up several questions. So the first question is from Sugahara. Is the student of Hokkaido University. So where is the Sugahara-kun?
Thank you for your speech today. I'm Shugo Sugawara, graduate school of Hokkaido University. How do you want it to evolve the Strandbeest? Do you have any plan about? Yeah.
Yeah, it does work, right? So, but like I just explained, I have plans, and I always will have plans. The only thing, my plans don't succeed. There was always, while I'm on the beach, because, for instance, I wanted to go to the beach this spring and had an idea of making the sort of sand joint which doesn't have sand in there. Anyway, while working on the beach, I got this idea that the caterpillars, they always tumble over. And then I made some sort of legs on them, so they don't tumble anymore until now. Maybe because there's not really a real storm yet, but if there comes a storm later in the fall, I hope that it will stay straight up again. But usually, so my day in the morning, people always want to know what I'm going to do that day, and it depends on the weather, also on the tide, and so it's hard to predict what I'm going to do. So in the morning, I decide what I'm going to do in that day, because I gave up having too many plans for. So of course sometimes you have to schedule something, because I have an agenda just like you have. I had to go to Japan now, so I can't be on the beach. But next week, when I'm back, I work without almost a plan. I let the animals tell me what to do.
Thank you.
Is this an answer to your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, this is the first question, and actually he is participating with the workshop held by Hokkaido University. So he think lots of works, lots of philosophy about your works.
Okay,
maybe.
okay.
So he cares about the future in Strandbeest, maybe. Yeah.
Oh, good boy. Yeah.
Good boy, yeah. And next question.
Thank you for your speech.
Thank you.
I want to know what influence or changes have you had in yourself making Strandbeest?
Yes. Well, I think there has been a change. So when I started this, I remember the first animal which I made in 1990. It was when I look backwards on it. So I recently saw it in an exhibition somewhere else, and the animal, it couldn't even stand on its feet. It just could move its legs laying on its back. And then when I look at it, I think, how could I be so optimistic that this would become something? But thinking back of that period of time, I saw it all happening. So I was not really a very modest person. But in the years working with all these disappointments, I became a little bit more modest. And especially nowadays when I'm on the beach, it's a very lonely beach where I work. And there's rain and there's bad weather and under the clouds, then I realize more what a kind of miracle we are living. I mean, it's so surprising that we exist. When I'm there, I realize we have such a special life that we can have a consciousness and that we can observe things, especially on the beach. You are more aware of this miracle where we live in. So I don't have really, and don't really need religion to see life as a miracle. I think it's already a miracle enough that we exist. And I realize this more and more. Of course, you forget often that life is a surprise because we have our agendas, we have our daily life, and you forget you have to do a lot of things. But there must be moments in somebody's life that he realizes we live in a miracle. And I think that I realize this more and more the older I become. So I think it influenced the Strandbeest. They influenced me in that way that I become more modest and I come more to realize that it's very special that we have a life. Please let me know if there's anything you would like to keep unchanged.
You continue the questions.
Well, I would have the dune landscape. I would like to have it like it is, and not. Well, of course, it changes by itself because there's wind and it changes the landscape. It's a dynamic system, but I don't want it to change it to a hotel battery of hotels.
Is there a comment from you? You can talk, so please keep thinking about that. And this is the second question, and it's very touched on me, your story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just to catch up if you like.
Yeah. Strandbeest change you lots of things, philosophy and some actions also. And we will go the next question.
Yes. Okay.
And this question is from Yukiko Mitao, the student of Hokkaido University.
Thank you for today's speech. I get a very big impact. I'm glad to hear you. My question, there are any capability for self-survival that you think are essential but have to realize at Strandbeest?
Yes, there are several challenges on the beach. First, let's say the storms. The storms are so aggressive, and I found several ways to fight the storms. But still, I must say, I need to put extra pins in the ground to keep them in place instead of a storm, because they have the same strategy as the seagulls on the beach. So the seagulls, they always point their nose into the wind, and that prevents them from being blown away because they're aerodynamic shape. In the same way, I want these animals to keep their nose into the wind so their surface towards the wind is as small as possible, and there's an aerodynamic shape like a sort of nose on it which keeps it straight into the wind, and then they wouldn't blow away. And I have had hammers who drive pins in the ground to keep it anchored, and it all works, but the only thing is not daily practical working yet. Another thing is the sand. the sand always creeps into the joints. You have turning joints, and there's always sand in there, so it gets used very easy. But since a few years, I developed these caterpillars, and these caterpillars, they don't have turning joints. So they can fight the sand. So if there's a sandstorm, the caterpillars will just stand up and walk again. And you don't have to lubricate them with oil or so. No, they don't need anything. They don't get used either as well. Now, a few years ago, I was invited by NASA in Pasadena, in California, to join their brainstorm sessions about a mission to Venus. And I advised them to take the caterpillars to Venus, since you can roll up a caterpillar in a circle so it would fit into a space capsule. And another thing is, the big advantage of caterpillars is that they can walk on very rough terrain. Dislike the normal walking animals, they don't need a flat surface. No, they walk on mountains. And another thing is their center of gravity is very low, so they don't tumble very easy. So I think for Venus, it would be ideal to bring a caterpillar to them. And I hope they will follow my advice to do that. And there's another thing, of course, it's the water. The Strandbeest, they drown very easily because when they're standing into the waves, the sand sucks in their legs, so they get fixed in the mud there. So, but also my hope is on that part, on the caterpillars, because they might be sea-loving animals, since you can put the PET bottles on the bottom of the caterpillar, and if it moves, it can maybe walk on water. And that would be wonderful. And that would also, so they don't have to be afraid of the waves, but they would love the waves, because then the waves also brings them back to the coast, by the way, yes. So I would say the big challenges of surviving is the storms, the sand, and the water. I hope this is an answer to your question.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
The next question. And you can ask by Japanese also. And this question is from Ito Aya-san.
There he is.
Yeah.
Konnichiwa.
こんばんは、こんにちは。科学と芸術の似ている点、異なる点はどこにあると思いますか？
And art are labels which are invented by institutions. So, for instance, art is in a museum and science is in a university. Now, of course, an institute is something good. I mean, that's the reason why you're sitting here, right? But a long time ago, there were no institutes. And I feel very much attracted to that period of time, that we were still living without universities, just as human beings. And we human beings have a lot of talents, a lot of things beyond our profession. So I have to think, when I'm on that beach, in the cold, in the rain, and under the clouds, I feel very much attracted being an Eskimo. There's no snow on the Dutch beach in the winter, not as much as here in Sapporo, sometimes a little bit. But still, I feel very much attracted to the life of an Eskimo. Eskimos, they are scientists because they have technical improvements on their kajaks or the way they build a house, an igloo. And but they also have artistic talents because they make little sculptures, which usually with a religious background. And so an Eskimo is an artist and a scientist without even knowing what a museum of an institute is. So if people ask me the question, are you a scientist or are you an artist? I will answer, I'm an Eskimo.
That's the great answer. And this question is actually many of people ask us.
Yes.
So,
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Well, of course, if you work in a university and you work of the Department of Engineers, then you're paid as an engineer. And usually people, when they get paid for something, they tend to believe that they are what they are paid for. But of course, an engineer has a lot of other possibilities, have a lot of other talents. I know a lot of engineers who are also musicians. And I think engineers are a lot more artists than they want to know. And I think we live in a very special era that, of course, you expect from an engineer when he builds a bridge that the bridge doesn't tumble down, right? That's a good demand on an engineer. But nowadays, you can build bridges in computers, and you can build 100 bridges in a week. And you can see which bridge lies, just like a sort of evolutionary process. So I think nowadays, with all these simulations, engineers have a lot more possibilities to be an artist. So they can become an Eskimo, just like me. And especially with these beautiful simulations of bridges and buildings and anything you would like to build in reality, you can try it out just in a computer.
okay. This question is from Sagara Kosuke-san.
日本語で失礼します。ヤンセンさんの作品は、私ももうすでに見てきたんですけれども、素晴らしい、芸術作品だなと思ってるんですけれども、その作品の、仕組みだとかっていうのはすごくユニークだなと思うんですよね。で、その仕組みだとかその理念だとかそういうものを、我々が日常生活で使っている乗り物だとか、それから動力源、そういうものに活用することは、可能だと考えていらっしゃいますか。またその可能だとするとどんな部分に活用できるんじゃないかなっていうのは、短期的なことでもいいんですけど長期的なことでもいいんですけども、その辺お考えになっていることあれば教えていただきたいなというふうに思います。
So I hope I understand your question well. So as a power source, you mean like a wind power source or Yes? Yeah, of course I use wind power to power the animals. And I've been thinking a lot about wind turbines in the future we have to use. A big problem with wind turbines is that they might be able to transform a lot of wind energy into electricity, but the big problem is how to store this energy, because on a windy day you have a lot of energy, and on a lousy day you want to turn on your washing machine, but there's no wind. So, and I think I found a solution for that. And I would like to introduce this to Japan, because Japan has wind here, and I think I found a way of storing the wind, not only in PET bottles, but imagine that you have a wind turbine in front of the coast, and you have a lot of coast here, So a little bit far away from the coast, please. So let's say 20 kilometers into the sea. You have these wind turbines, and normally there is a generator in the top of a wind turbine, and I would replace it by a pump. And the pump goes up and down and presses the air into big tubes. And the tubes are connected from 20 kilometers of tube, is apart from bringing the energy to the coast, also a store of energy, because if you keep the pressure in that big volume, let's say 8 bars, then on a lousy day you still have 8 bars, and it takes a few days before it lost its energy, and then on a windy day you can pump it up again. So that's something which I would like to bring in this world. Although I must say I'm not a practical person who can really work this out. So hopefully maybe on this university they can do that. And so there's a task on your shoulders, which I give you right now. Try to do this and save humanity and save the coast. And let's say, well, and I think also the lag system of the Strandbeest could be maybe applicable in agriculture, because they walk high on it, they can step between the crops. And that might be also sort of application of the Strandbeest in reality. Now, I wonder if this is really what you expected as an answer to your question, or, well, because I see also philosophy as a vehicle. Philosophy as a vehicle, I don't know really what you, a philosophy, maybe, well, maybe I was talking about that earlier, that the Strandbeest disease has something, it gives you sleepless nights, but it also, it gives you the illusion that you're happy. And I think we need, in this world where we have a lot of concerns, that we also need something that makes us happy. And although maybe it's an illusion, but if you have the illusion that you're happy, you are happy, right? Because happiness might be just an illusion. So philosophy as a vehicle, I think that we need a lot of optimism and happiness.
Strand-based disease make the people happy.
Yes,
people
I don't know
can
how
dreaming.
I achieved that, but it turns out that that when people on the exhibition, they move the animals and they start smiling, and it's such a privilege being an artist that this happens, and that's so of course this is, for me, that is also very encouraging and very stimulating to continue this work.
And the face of the audience
Yes.
in here were very happy when your presentation very dynamically.
Yes.
So I think so. Today we are happy for the Strandbeest.
Okay.
I hope so. Okay. And
Where's
this
the high
question is
school
from
student?
Sota
I'm a high school
Hosoya.
student. Where is he?
Where is the high school student?
日本語で失礼します。僕は高校生なんですが、ヤンセンさんは高校時代どんなことに夢中でしたか？
I'm very curious about this question too.
Yes. What were you into when you were in high school? Well, I was a very modest boy on high school, and so when I meet old classmates, I recognize them immediately when I meet them in town, for instance, after all these years, and they don't know who I am. Somehow I wasn't very expressive as a young boy. I was always a little bit, dreaming. I must say I'm a dreaming type. And I wanted to become a pilot. So I followed the course of being a pilot, and I flew a lot in my life with ultralight airplanes and with Delta flying. And so I loved flying, but then it turned out that my eyes were not good enough. I had glasses in that period of time, so I couldn't become a pilot. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sitting here, but I would have been in an airplane at this moment. So then I had to choose something else, and I chose to become a physicist. So I studied physics at the University of Delft, but it was the hippie time. So there were a lot of people doing something they were not supposed to do. And I was painting a lot, and I was drawing a lot. So then there was this day that my marriage broke up. And then I thought, why going on with this? I become an artist. So I became a painter. So I painted for a long time, and then in the 80s, I decided to become a writer. So and in 1990, I wrote this first column about the Strandbeest, which was about skeletons on the beach, which would gather sand to build up the dunes and to protect the country against the rise of the sea level in this century. So that's how the Strandbeest started. I must say it's a career which you couldn't predict. It's one of, we had that question earlier, that if I had followed my plan, I would have been a pilot. But I was forced to do something else. And I must say, looking back, it couldn't have been better. I'm so happy that my plans didn't succeed when I was young. So I think for you, a young guy, that of course you should make plans, but you must also be flexible and react to reality, that see what is really possible for you, and also what makes you happy. And so it's, and I think I'm the happiest man in the world, because I jump on my bicycle in the morning and I go to this paradise on the beach where I pretend to work. People call it work, but in my eyes it's a big holiday. And my whole life has always been a big holiday. I hope this is an answer to your question.
Yeah, and the different way is a different way, not a wrong way. That's very impressive.
That's right.
That's very big impression for me.
Well, I think especially here in Japan, well, I don't want to criticize anything, but young people, they are sometimes a little bit forced to do their will of their parents. And of course your parents know what's good for you, but sometimes you're also somebody yourself. And so I think you should also follow your own heart sometimes.
So your past life will now affect your current work or your current?
Sorry, my what?
Your past life.
Yes.
Your past life will affect now your
Yes, well,
current work.
of course I have, well, the thing is, when I grew up at the beach and I went to study in Delft, I had to immigrate inland, only 15 kilometers, not very far, but I missed the coasts. So when I lived in Delft for 45 years. And then since 5 years, I went back to the coast. And as if I am renewing my youth. So I walk in the same streets, I go to the same church. And I'm not religious, by the way, but I just to see the church again. And so as if I'm having a renaissance, a rebirth of my life. Because as a child, you are surprised about everything. And going back to my youth, I'm surprised again about when I see a helicopter flying. That how is it possible that it really flies? Normally, you look at a helicopter, oh, there goes a lot of noise. Oh my God, away with it. But looking at the world in surprise, that it's as if you are an alien coming from another planet and looking at the world in that perspective. That is, for me, it makes me very, well, at least it gives me the feeling that I get more insight in how life works, how life is.
Curiosity is the matter that in the life, maybe. Yes. Curiosity is
Curiosity,
the matter.
yes.
And this is the last question. And
That's the last question.
Yeah,
okay.
from someone. So let me read the questions.
Yes.
Why do you choose the wind as a source of power energy? Was
Yes,
there
and
any
why
reason
there
or
any
trigger?
reason or trigger? Yes, well, the wind is, of course, on the beach I could also have chosen for the energy of the tides going up and down. And that might still be a possibility. The tides, in the beginning I made animals who run with the waves and run back, so also the wave energy is something which you could use. And the tides, of course, they change every, well, twice a day is high tide, and so there is some energy there as well. But the wind, it's so available, it's there all the time. And it's so easy to harness the wind, and you can store the wind in these bottles. And so that's why the wind plays a big role for me. Of course, the wind is also very capricious. When you need it, it's not there. And when you don't need it, it's too much. The wind always comes when you don't want it. And so so you have to work on systems that you can harness the wind, like making the sail smaller when there's a strong wind and bigger when there's a less wind. So you have to find ways to get along with the wind, because the wind is also a friend, but also an enemy. And in this game of the wind, that you have to be friends, and also sometimes you have to conquer it. It's just like a sort of marriage, in fact. You have to be friends with your wife, but also sometimes you have a conflict with your wife. And so, and the wind is as capricious as women. Oh, I shouldn't say that. So it's the wind is not easy, but of course it's the most beautiful element which I experience on that beach. So I think the wind is. I'm a windy type. My hair is always a little bit to the back of the wind, and you can also see that the wind is stroking yourself on your cheeks all the time, and of course, when the strongest wind is not really stroking, it's really taking your cheeks, but in the good times, then the wind is something you cannot see, and still you just feel it. You just see the effect of winds. So That's my relationship with the wind.
That's great. Yeah. And
Still 3 minutes.
still 3 minutes, but I
Only
want
1
to,
minute, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I really want to hear.
I kept on talking.
Yeah, yeah, maybe. I really want to hear the feeling and impression about this Science Cafe Sapporo, this talk event, from
Yes.
you and Hajime-san also.
First you? Or?
How was it?
Yeah, for me, it's very exciting time because I met Theo Jansen here and talk with my question. You ask me, I know you answer to me my questions. It's my dream, and yeah.
Actually, it's deep. It has some deep relationship with two categories. So it's very curious.
That's right. Yes, because he loves the dune, the beach and dunes.
We have that really in common.
It's also me.
Yes.
Yes, I love it. So it's very impressive for me. And
How did you feel about
Yes,
this
well,
talk?
of course, it was a great meeting to meet Hajime here and there are dunes in Hokkaido. I haven't seen them yet, so and I don't have the time to see them still. But I think, and being here at this university, I met some people who did projects with bacteria, and I saw a wonderful movie. I don't know where the guy is. I think he's there. Yes, I recognize the color of his vest. He was one of the, I think behind you, no? Yeah. I
Ichigoya?
saw some beautiful movies, your movies, yes? Of the bacteria growing.
Yeah.
And so I think you do a good work on this university, trying to find out what is life and to bring your wisdom to the people. And that's very important, that it doesn't stay here in the university between the walls, but it also goes to society, because society is really, has a lot of hunger for inspiration. And I would like to say that that task is on your shoulders to bring this to the world, because we need people like you, young people, who are enthusiastic about something, and because we have a very dynamic balance in the world of people who are lazy and doing nothing, and we need people who do something and cheer people up and bring everything in balance. And that's the task on your shoulders working at a university like this.
Thank you very much, and we are very honored, and I was very happy that you gave some Strandbeest disease and a lot of presentation and interesting topics about the answers, the lots of answers.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the end of time.
Yes.
Of part 2. So thank you for these two panel and guests, Theo Jansen and Hajime Matsushima.
This is Park.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'm Park. Thank you for this panel.
Thank you. Thank you very much.